Yeah. Y'all watching the Grind Ethiks mixtape show, and I'm your host, Viktory BX Supreme Promoter. Basically, nah, I'm Shane. Basically, yeah. Thank y'all for watching Grind Ethics. A new episode. Oh yeah, man. Anybody that like this episode of Grind Ethics, I'll be very grateful if anyone follow me on Grind Ethics at Instagram, Grind Ethics, Grind Ethics Media 22 at Instagram. I got two Instagram accounts. Also, I'm on TikTok. Also, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Comment, and when you do subscribe, ring the bell, please. So every time I upload new episodes, you be the first ones, or y'all be the first ones to get it. Also, if you definitely like this episode, hey, I'll be very grateful if you hit me with a small donation, nothing crazy. The link is Grind Ethics Cash App, Grind Ethics Cash App. Also, I'm on PayPal, Grind Ethics Media at PayPal. Also, I got to give a big shout out to my proud sponsor, Yamaha Naturals. Yamaha Naturals. If you want to learn about CMOS, log on to YamahaNaturals.com after the show. You can learn a lot about CMOS. Also, you can learn about their other products that they have on deck. You know what I'm saying? Not only CMOS, they got other herbal products. But anyway, I want to talk about some simple stuff. I want to talk about the 1990s, man. I want to talk about 90s hip hop, man. You know, let me tell you something about me, okay? I'm not a dinosaur. I'm not a hip hop dinosaur. I grew up in the 90s, okay? I'm a 70s, 80s baby that grew up on hip hop. I'm from Bronx, New York, for those who don't know, the home of hip hop, you know? And I also got to do the Wanaconda shit too. I know I'm corny. I laugh at my own jokes. I know. Fuck it. Sue me. But yeah, man. The 90s was a very magical era. That's the topic of the show. The 90s hip hop was very, I mean, I would say 90s music in general was hot, but 90s hip hop and 90s rap music, just say rap music in the 90s. I wouldn't say the whole culture of hip hop, but then again, yeah. Let's include all that. The rap music, no rap back in the 90s, it ruled commercially, it ruled over other aspects of hip hop, like DJing, graffiti, whatever. But rap, it definitely was at its prime in the 90s. Now, some people will argue with me, like my brother K-Ball. Oh, yo, I gotta say peace to the God K-Ball, because I don't like to argue and debate. You know what I'm saying? But when I debate with my brother K-Ball, it's funny to me. I laugh. I be having fun when I debate with him. When it comes to everybody debating with other people, I get edgy. I get heated. So I don't debate no more. But with K-Ball, it's always a funny session every time. Every time I debate with him. But me and him had a debate about what's the prime, rap music. Whatever that rap music was in its prime. Was it the late 80s or the 90s? I say the 90s. Because it looks like, and I grew up in the 80s. I grew up listening to Rakim and Slick Rick in the 80s, Big Daddy Kane. I wasn't really a Big Daddy Kane fan when I was growing up in the 80s, but I saw him in Video Music Box. You know, I know he was. You know what I mean? Now I'm a Big Daddy Kane fan. But who else was in the 90s? KRS-One, Coogee Rap, the Juice Crew. You know, I mean, but I would say the 90s, I would say the 80s was kind of like a precursor to the prime. of rap music. It was headed there. Like you could taste that rap music, it's in its prime back in the 80s. You could in the late 80s, you could taste it. And then it actually happened in the 90s. I don't know. Some of y'all might agree with me, especially for those who are in their 50s, might disagree with me. Because I'm in my 40s. I'm from a different generation than people that was really into rap music in the 80s. I'm from a different, you know what I mean? People in their 50s, that's the generation when kids started bringing guns to school. I know it's irrelevant to the topic, but I'm just saying. Um, but yeah, man, the 90s was a magical era, man. It was very, that's why a lot of people are my age and older cannot stop talking about it and cannot stop remembering and cannot stop listening to the 90s rap music, man. Everybody had their own effing style. For those who listen to drill music and trap music, if you listen to that, that's okay. Whatever. You know, I hate trap music personally. You know, drill music, I'm half and half. I'm kind of half and half with drill music. You know, I can't say I hate drill music, and I can't say I love it either. But yeah, I mean, back in the 90s, for those who don't understand, everybody had their own style. Everybody had their own style. You know, I would say in the 80s, almost everybody was. I would say, okay, I might get crucified for this, but I would say in the 80s, almost everybody was the same. I mean, almost, you know, but the 90s, everybody had their own style. That's why it was so special. You had Wu-Tang. Everybody within the Wu-Tang had their own style. You had Boot Camp Click, which was a crew, which is a crew that still exists to this day. They're still doing their thing to this day. Boot Camp Click divided into different, you know, rap groups. Helter Skelter. You got OGC. You know, Black Moon. You know, but even them had their own. Even within the groups, within that crew of boot camp, they, you had people that had, for example, Helter Skelter, Ruck and Rock. They had their own style. They wasn't the same. And everybody else that was done with Boot Camp Click had different styles. Redman had a different style than everybody else that was with his crew, called Def Squad. EPMD, who started Def Squad, different than everybody else. You know, Eric Sherman different than Paris Smith. You know what I'm saying? Even though they came from the 80s, they were still rocking in the 90s. You know, actually, I think EPMD they kind of broke up in the 90s. But anyway, I forgot. But who else? Who else? You had KRS-One still doing his thing. Who else? Who else? Who else? Who else? Now I gotta talk about homegrown 90s heads. Okay, you had Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes started his solo career in the 90s. He was hot. He definitely had his own style. Who else? It was so many people, so many people. Anybody that's watching, mention somebody in the 90s that was hot or had their own style in the 90s. Whether you liked them or whether you didn't like them, it don't matter. So many, man. Yeah, Nine. You remember Nine? What you want, son? Fat beats from Iran's. What you want? I'm fucking up the song. I can't remember the song. But you had Nine, who came in and out back in the 90s. Who else? Who else? The Far Side. Snoop Dogg. The Dog Pound. Thug Bones and Harmony came out in the 90s. Yeah, everybody had their own damn style, man. The 90s was just wonderful, man. It was just wonderful. When I sit back and reminisce to 90s rap music, I be, you know, or listen to some of the songs. Sometimes it does something to my soul I can't even explain. And maybe it's okay I can't explain it. For real, man. For real. But the thing is, nowadays, for those who love the 90s like me, Some of y- some of y'all have to understand that the 90s ain't coming back. Okay, it's not coming back. You cannot duplicate the 90s. Some of y'all been trying to duplicate the 90s. You cannot duplicate the 90s. The 90s ain't coming back, son. Ain't coming back. It's not coming back. It's over. All we got is the pictures, the images, the memories. Now the 90s is still here. It's in a different form now. You got platforms like Drink Champs. Big shouts to Nori and DJ EFN that's giving 90s heads their flowers. You know what I'm saying? You got other podcast shows or other media platforms that's showing mad love to other that's showing love to 1990 heads, 1990 rappers. Big shouts to Unique Access. You know, big shouts to 24/7. That's also another, hip hop platform that show love to the 90s. So many. So the 90s is not really dead, or boom bap hip hop is not really dead. It kind of manifested into a whole nother thing, which is media, platform media, social media. We could enjoy and remember 1990s rap music and keep it alive through social media. And also social gatherings, physical social gatherings like concerts or little shows in the clubs or whatever. You know, that's what it's about, keeping it alive through that, not being obsessed about bringing it back because it's not coming back. You know how many special eras there was? Like even the 80s, the 60s. That shit ain't coming back. That was a wonderful era. That's not coming back. The 70s, the disco, the funk music. That's not coming back. Actually, rap music, actually, hip hop is kind of like resurrected, or kind of like the baby of funk music and disco. So hip hop, so in a way, disco and funk music is alive through hip hop. You know, but you can't bring these eras back. The 80s, you can't bring that back. And you definitely can't bring back the 90s. All we have is the memories, y'all. All we have is the memories. Life goes on. Things wasn't, especially things that's great, wasn't meant to last forever. Okay? It wasn't meant to last forever and ever. See, that's my Keith Sweat remix. You remember, Keith Sweat. You remember that song, Make It Last Forever? Well, the remix is Everything's Not Gonna Last Forever. Okay? Everything is not gonna last forever. It's not. It's not. All we have is the memories. Okay? But I remember, man, as a kid coming home from high school, even going back to elementary school, junior high school. But in junior high school, that's when I went to. That's since we're talking about the 90s. Yeah, I remember in junior high school coming home from school, watching Video Music Box, watching, different MCs being broke in the game, being broke in the industry. Like, wow, you know what I'm saying? I remember when I first seen seeing DMX on Video Music Box. That was in high school, but I remember that. I remember Black Moon, checking out Black Moon on Video Music Box. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to Ralph McDaniels, man. Definitely got to give that brother his flowers. That brother definitely keeps the old school alive, the old school rap music alive, man. He's definitely the father, one of the fathers. I wouldn't even say he's one of the godfathers of hip hop media. I would say he's the father, one of the fathers of hip hop media, next to Mr. Magic. Big shouts to Mr. Magic, rest in peace. And also next to Supreme, peace to the gods, the Supreme team. You know what I mean? But you know. But yeah, man. But tell me, what's your favorite memories of the 1990s? What was you doing and what was you doing during the 90s rap music? When 90s rap music was alive, what were you doing? What was going on in your life at that time? You know, who was your favorite rappers? What was your favorite songs or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Let's reminisce. Let's reminisce. Okay. Oh yeah, and I forgot, reminisce over you. That's another that's another 1990s hit. You know what I'm saying? Big shouts to CL Smooth and Pete Rock. Or was that in the late 80s? No, I'm pretty sure that was the 90s. That was the 90s. You got to put in the THC. You got to put in my THC. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was since we talking about reminisce. You put on that song. That should be the soundtrack to this episode. Okay. Anyway, I'm out. If you like this episode of Grind Ethiks, I'll be very grateful if you could follow me on Instagram, Grind Ethiks at Instagram, Grind Ethiks Media 22 at Instagram. I got 2 Instagram accounts. Grind Ethiks TikTok. Also, share, like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. Oh yeah, check out my sponsor, Yamaha Naturals. If you into eating healthy, or if you want to eat healthy, holla at Yamaha Naturals. All the links are below. And if you definitely like this episode, you can hit me with a friendly link, a friendly donation if you want. Grind Ethiks Cash App, Grind Ethiks Media at PayPal. Everything's on below. The link is on below. I'm out, y'all. And remember, peoples, tell a friend to tell a friend. That's all about the mother effing grind, basically.